this is a beautiful day.
Yeah, look at that. Everybody's out playing golf at the golf course.
We're taking the shortcut through the golf course on our way to Cedar City. Normally you wouldn't go through the golf course to go to Cedar City.
We do.
We do. We screw around endlessly. Anyway, we're heading down to Cedar City to see Dave Roten, who has Ozark Miniatures, Hartford Miniatures and stuff. We did that show on him quite a while back, and we want to talk to him about business and doing some casting work. We used to do Dungeons and Dragons figures, and we're going to see if he wants to distribute those for us. And we want to pick up our new coaling tower.
Yeah.
Because his newest product is a 1/20th scale coaling tower, and as it happens, we need one of those for our railroads. We're going to be picking that up, and then our ulterior motive is we want to go to Zion Canyon, because in April the crowds haven't arrived yet, and some of it's still pretty crowded.
Between summer and spring break.
Boy, I tell you, if you go much later in the year, you just can't do anything there.
No.
And that's kind of what we wanted to show you, that there are actually hidden backspaces at Zion National Park where you can go to avoid the crowds and see some amazing things that most people never ever get a chance to see. So check this out, the mysterious unknown parts of Zion National Park.
This is such a peaceful place. I always feel so relaxed when I'm here.
I love Zion Canyon. I've been coming here my whole life.
I've been coming here too for many, many years.
I used to come down here with a guy named Walter Buss, who had been one of the park rangers. We actually stumbled blindly into the deal of the century when we were here visiting Mesa Verde National Park. It's right near Durango, and we figured we'd just drive up there when we were in Durango riding the train.
Right, I always wanted to go there anyway.
Yeah, you've been talking about it forever, but we found out for $5 more than going in, we could buy a lifetime senior citizens pass that gets you into any of the parks, not just here at Mesa Verde, but any national park for the rest of your life. Back then it was $25.
Oh.
And while the price has gone up, it's still the most awesome deal for anyone over 62. So this is Zion National Park, one of America's favorite national parks, and it just happens to be right in Dave Roten's backyard.
It is.
He's just north of Canaraville there, where he manufactures all these train parts. But if you look at Zion, it's this huge national park, in spite of the fact that few people go anywhere other than this part right down here. This is where Highway 9 crosses through the park. And so you can enter the park at Springdale and just drive back in there to all kinds of little trailheads and parking areas and so on.
I love this part of the park. Look at the road, how it's paved.
It certainly is a spectacular drive going up through this part of the park.
And this great tunnel approaching was carved in the 1930s, and it's about a mile long.
That's great. And it leads to some of the most beautiful part of the park. This is Checkerboard Mesa on the other side of the tunnel, one of my favorite places in the park. And it's right next to the road, so you can just drive to it. Now there's this part of the canyon as well, the upper canyon, and we used to just drive up here.
Yes, years ago.
But then they closed it because the traffic was just nuts. And today, if you want to go up there, you have to take a bus and get reservations and so on. And you're fighting crowds. Even in April, when we were here, we were fighting incredible crowds. And if you try coming during the regular summer,
oh my,
good grief. So a lot of people just don't even come here anymore because they don't want to fight the traffic and they don't want to fight the crowds. And that's just too darn bad, because Zion is such a beautiful, beautiful park, which I guess is why it's so crowded too. But as you can see, Zion is really, really a huge park. There's a lot more to it than just Highway 9. There's this great big huge section out in the middle called Kolob Terrace, and very few people ever go up here. I guess it's because it's so hard to get to.
Well, I think there's a road you can drive to get up there.
Well, as a matter of fact, there is. They don't want people to know about it. There's no sign. It doesn't say you can go back here. But right here in the little town of Virgin is a turnoff on a road that takes you right back in there. The intersection's not marked except that it's Kolob Terrace Road. It's a regular paved road just like SR9. Takes you back into Kolob Terrace.
Well, you can sure tell that this is Zion Canyon or part of it.
It's sure beautiful like the rest of Zion. And you can drive right straight into the park. Now, there's no visitor center, there's no ranger station, there's no anything. This is where it enters the park, and all there is a sign. So they say you should get your permit and everything before you drive up here. Of course, we have our lifetime permit, so we just drive right in. But there's nobody there to check your badge or check anything. You just drive into the park, and there you are.
You know, it's interesting how the sandstone has been formed into these interesting formations by time and erosion.
Yeah, and what I found fascinating, we keep going to higher and higher elevations. It just seems like the road goes up and up and up. I don't think anybody really thinks of Zion as an alpine region.
No, not really, but yes.
But yes, and the thing is, there hadn't been really any snow in 2017. This area is in an extreme drought. But normally in April, mid-April, when we were here, this area would still be in deep snow. Normally they close this road in the winter, at least the upper part of it, so that they don't have to do snow removal. But look at this, we're up into Ponderosa Pine.
It reminds me of the Sierra Nevadas up by Lake Tahoe.
Yeah, it's actually a lot like Lake Tahoe up here. Now this is actually the highest point in Zion National Park. It's called Lava Point, and we're at 8,000 feet up here. So more than a mile above the lower canyon. There's a little village up here of summer cabins. It's all closed in the winter, of course. Now, up here at Lava Point is also the trailhead for a really famous trail called the West Rim Trail. The trail leaves the highway. You can drive right up to the trailhead there and continues down over Kolob Terrace through a little valley here, then up to the West Rim and down into Zion Canyon at a place called the Grotto.
Well, that trail looks like an improved trail.
Yeah, it's almost like going down a sidewalk. They built all these trails in the 1930s, and they're just spectacular. It looks like a real easy walk, except that it's 13 miles from Lava Point all the way down to the Grotto. Now, it's mostly downhill, 6,000 feet downhill, but you do enter this little valley here, and then you have to climb up to the rim on the other side. Some of the hiking guides will call this a day hike, but most people will take 2 days. There's campgrounds all along the way, but you do have to get reservations to camp here. But once you reach the west rim of the canyon, the view down into the canyon is just spectacular. I've hiked up here when I was younger and before my knees gave out and everything. But this is where the trail splits off to go out to Angel's Landing, which is a really popular, although intimidating climb. But you can keep going for 13 miles all the way up to Lava Point if you want to. Well, let's move on to another fun and interesting place. Just outside of the main entrance at Springdale, which is where most people enter the park, is the little community of Rockville. You're very familiar with Rockville.
Yes, I am.
And right next to Rockville is Grafton.
Yes.
Here again, there's a lovely little road out to Grafton, only in this case it's a dirt road. And here again, the turnoff is not very well marked, but at least it is marked. and that will take you across this very narrow little one-lane bridge, which is on the historic register and has been restored. So it looks sort of rickety, but it's not.
Now this is quite the dirt road. We might want to watch for rattlesnakes.
We did have a close encounter of the rattlesnake kind out here last time we were here, so they are here. Grafton might just be America's most beautiful ghost town. I mean, look at the setting.
And it's so well preserved. They're taking very good care of it.
That they are. Now, 30 years ago or so, the place was literally falling down, but a group of concerned citizens got together and started rebuilding it.
Yes.
Just kind of a screwing around sort of project. They're using their own money and whatnot, but they intend to save Grafton and make it as nice as they possibly can, in spite of the fact that not a soul has lived here since the 1950s.
This has got to be my favorite house. I mean, look at the orchards, back in the day when they had to grow and raise their own food.
And it was quite a community back then. There was about 500 people living here. But one thing and another, they just all moved on.
The preservation on this is just amazing. Look at the interior work being done.
They're really making it nice, and I don't know that they have any plans to do anything with it other than just save it. Right now, it's completely open. You just come back in here and enjoy the place. One would hope that people will respect the place when they come back in here, because there's no gate, there's no entry fee, there's nothing. You just drive in here and enjoy the place.
Now, my ancestors had settled Rockville, and they also settled in central Utah in a small town of Freedom. And this area here in Grafton reminds me so much of Freedom, which is also a ghost town.
Yeah, it's got the same signature. You can tell it's the same people behind it. Now, Grafton became internationally famous during the 1960s when they shot a scene for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid here. This was the home that Butch and Sundance's girlfriend lived in, and they showed up to see her and rode around town on a bicycle while Burt Bacharach sang "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head." But that scene was shot here in Grafton. And after the movie, it really started falling apart, unfortunately.
So here was this old pioneer cemetery, again reminding me so much of the cemetery in Freedom. I had to look around to see if any of my family might be buried here.
We didn't find anybody.
Not that I know of.
Not that we know of. There's undoubtedly some of your relatives here. One of the things that struck me is how young all of these people died. That person's only 3 years old.
Yes.
And there's a section here for Native Americans as well.
The Paiute.
But Grafton is one of Zion's better kept secrets. If it becomes as popular as parts of Zion, then they probably will have to take some kind of steps to limit who comes back in here and so on. But for now, at least, you can just drive in here and look at it. Well, leaving the entrance here at Springdale, there's this other section up here, this huge section that very few people visit. This in spite of the fact that it's right next to Interstate 15. As a matter of fact, it has its own off-ramp. But for some reason, people don't generally come in here. Now, in this case, there is a ranger station, and you have to stop here to pay your admission and so on. But I suppose it just looks like there's not much going on. But just beyond that ridge are the Kolob Canyons. The Kolob Canyons are certainly as spectacular as anything else you'll find anywhere in Zion. These incredible red cliffs rising up a couple of 1,000 feet right in front of you. Kolob is actually a series of slot canyons. Each canyon has a little trail going up into it, so you can hike back in there. This is the road, the main road through, but if you want to get into the canyons, you have to hike back in there. Or, if you happen to be a horse person, these are equestrian-friendly trails, and they've got parking here for your horse trailers, and you can park and get on your horse, mount your horse, I think is the expression, and ride up into these slot canyons. They go for miles and miles back in there.
This is such a photogenic area here. No matter where you aim your camera, you've got a good view of something.
We started up this little canyon right here, walked a few hundred feet up in there, but I'm afraid our knees are just not up to hiking anymore. So we'll leave that to the younger crowd. But what an absolutely beautiful, beautiful place. We stopped at the visitor center and tried to buy souvenir t-shirts, and they were sold out because they said they're closing the park next year.
Oh, no.
So it's going to be closed for a year to repair the roads. What a shame that they can close this whole area down for the whole of 2018. But as we say, they don't get that many visitors in here, and I guess they don't have that much budget, and so they're going to close the whole thing down for an entire year and rebuild the roads.
We got there just in time.
Yep.
Well, that's the hidden, mysterious backspaces at Zion Canyon.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. It's cool that there's all these places where nobody ever goes that are really incredible. You just kind of have to know where to go.
There they are.
And there's one more weird backspace, and it's so weird that we decided to not include it in the show. So we're going to put that up on Wednesday, where we put foolishness up, because this is some significant foolishness. The fourth unknown, really, really weird, mysterious backspace at Zion Canyon, where they used to shoot people with rockets off a cliff. Anyway, if you haven't been over to the channel, do pop on over to the channel. And if you're not a subscriber, well, you want to be a subscriber, because then you'll be notified when we shoot someone off a cliff on Wednesday. And the easy way to subscribe is to click the blue button. Now, this is the historic blue button, zoink. The problem with it is it's probably not displayed on your device, and it probably doesn't work at all.
Some people say it's red.
Some people say it's red, so go figure. So we've got a new one that actually works. Zoink! This is the new, fancy, new and improved subscribe button. Click on that, makes you a subscriber,
Has a
takes you
warranty.
to the channel. And it works, yeah. It's 90-day warranty. Well, we're not sure how you found this movie on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring. And we will see you here on Tuesday with the Collector's Attic, and Wednesday shooting somebody off a cliff. See you then. Bye-bye.